My name is Anna. I am 28 years old. I live in the United States. I work at a local bakery. Every morning, I wake up early, put on my apron, and walk to the shop. I help make the bread, slice the cakes, and serve coffee to the customers. It's not a big place, but it's warm and full of sweet smells. I like my job. It keeps me busy, and I enjoy seeing the same friendly faces every day. For a long time, my life was very quiet. I worked in the bakery, I went home, and sometimes I visited my mother on Sundays. She lives in a small town, just 1 hour away. I don't have many friends, and I didn't have a boyfriend. My days were simple and always the same. Wake up, work, go home, sleep. Some people would call that boring, but I didn't mind. I told myself that peace was better than pain. Then, one morning, everything started to change. A new manager joined the bakery team. His name was Michael. He was 31, 3 years older than me. He had short brown hair, clear blue eyes, and a smile that made people feel welcome. He wasn't loud or full of himself. He was calm and confident. The other girls at the bakery noticed him right away. They laughed more when he was around. They asked him questions, even when they didn't need help. I tried not to look at him too much. I didn't think someone like him would ever notice someone like me. I was just Anna. I wore plain jeans and simple shirts. I kept my hair in a ponytail, and I never wore makeup. I didn't have anything special. I was just good at my job. But one day, after I helped an angry customer with a smile, Michael came to me and said, "You're really patient." That was impressive. I thanked him, but inside my heart jumped. He had noticed me. After that, we started talking more. Not long conversations, just little moments here and there. He asked how my morning was. He told me when he liked how I arranged the display. He laughed at my small jokes. His kindness was soft, not loud. He didn't try too hard. That made it feel real. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly I started to look forward to work in a new way. I found myself thinking about what to wear, even if I kept it simple. I looked in the mirror a bit longer before leaving the house. I smiled more. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Sometimes he would bring in a coffee for me when he went out during break. Sometimes he stayed back to clean up when he didn't have to. When we had quiet mornings, we talked about little things, books we liked, food we hated, the music playing in the shop. I learned he had a dog named Max. I told him about my mother and her flower garden. It was small talk, but it felt big to me. It felt personal. One Friday evening, just before closing, he said, "Do you have plans this weekend?" I shook my head. "Want to see a movie?" he asked, almost too casually. I paused, unsure what he meant. Then I nodded. "Sure," I said. That Sunday, we met at the small theater downtown. We watched a funny film and laughed more than we talked. Afterward, we walked by the river and shared a warm pretzel. He told me about his high school days and his dreams of owning his own bakery one day. I told him about how I used to draw when I was younger, but stopped. He said I should start again. That night when I went to bed, I smiled in the dark. My chest felt light. I hadn't felt that way in years. The next week, he acted the same, kind, warm, gentle. Nothing changed, and that made me feel safe. I started to believe that maybe something real was beginning, something honest, something mine. But I was wrong. One quiet morning, just as I was finishing a tray of muffins, Michael came into the kitchen. His face looked different, tense, serious. I wiped my hands on my apron and asked if something was wrong. He looked at the floor for a second, then back at me. "Anna," he said softly, "I need to tell you something." I didn't speak. I just waited. "I'm married," he said. I blinked. I didn't understand the words at first. Then they sank in. Married. The word hit my chest like a heavy stone. He quickly added, "Her name is Laura. We've been married for 5 years. But we're not happy. We've grown apart. We don't talk like we used to. We don't connect." I felt cold all over. My hands were shaking, but I tried not to show it. He kept talking, his voice lower now, like he was trying to explain something to himself more than to me. "When I'm with you," he said, "I feel alive. I feel like myself. I haven't felt that in years." I didn't answer. I couldn't. That night, I went home and cried. I didn't eat dinner. I didn't turn on the TV. I just sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall. I asked myself, why didn't he tell me before? Why did he let me believe something sweet was real? Why did he come so close if he was already someone else's? 2 days later, I went to the big supermarket after work. I needed bread and milk, but my mind was far away. As I walked down the frozen food aisle, I heard a voice. I turned my head, and there he was, Michael. He wasn't alone. He was walking beside a tall, elegant woman. She wore a light green coat and black boots. Her hair was soft and golden. She laughed, and her hand touched his arm. He smiled back at her. They looked perfect. I couldn't move. I just stood there and watched them pass. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did and just pretended not to. Either way, I left the store without buying anything. That night I cried again. But this time, the tears were different. They weren't soft. They were angry. I felt used. I felt like I was only there to make him feel better. Like I didn't matter. How could he tell me he felt close to me, and then walk through the store smiling beside his wife? Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next day at the bakery, everything looked the same. The bread was rising. The coffee was hot. The customers stood in line like always. But nothing felt the same to me. When Michael walked in, I didn't smile. I didn't even look at him at first. I just focused on my hands, wiping the counter over and over again, even though it was already clean. He stood near me for a moment, then quietly said my name. I didn't answer. He waited, then said it again, a little softer. This time, I looked up. I wanted to shout at him. I wanted to ask him why he had done this to me. But my voice didn't work. My chest felt too tight. So instead I just said, "We need to talk." He looked surprised, maybe even worried. I walked to the back of the bakery, to the small room where we kept the extra flour. He followed me. The room was quiet. I could hear my heart beating. I told him I saw him at the supermarket. I told him I saw him with his wife. I told him they looked happy. I said I didn't understand anything anymore. He didn't try to deny it. He didn't get angry. He just looked down at his shoes and stayed silent for a long time. Then he said, "I'm sorry." But sorry didn't feel like enough. It didn't fix the hole in my chest. It didn't take back the nights I stayed awake thinking about him. It didn't change the fact that I had started to believe in something, and now that belief felt broken. He said he wasn't happy with Laura. He said they had problems. He said he didn't feel like himself around her anymore. He said he didn't plan to get close to me. It just happened. That hurt even more, because I hadn't just happened. I had been careful. I had been patient. I had trusted the small, soft moments. And now I felt like I was just something that filled a space in his life when it felt empty. I didn't know what to say to him, so I just told him I needed time. He nodded, but I could see the look in his eyes. He was afraid I would walk away. And maybe I should have walked away that very moment. But I didn't. Not yet. For the next few days, I stayed quiet. I worked my shifts, served the customers, and cleaned the tables. I avoided him as much as I could. But his presence was still there, in the air, in the smell of his coffee, in the space beside me when I turned to say something and realized I didn't want to anymore. At night, I went home and sat in silence. I didn't turn on the lights right away. I didn't cook dinner. I just sat there thinking, what did I want? Did I want to fight for someone who already belonged to someone else? Did I want to believe he would leave his wife? And if he did leave her, would I ever feel sure he wouldn't one day do the same to me? I needed answers, but no one could give them to me, not even him. So I talked to someone who always told me the truth, my best friend Sarah. Sarah and I had been friends since school. She was smart, strong, and never afraid to speak her mind. We met at a small diner after work. I didn't even have to say much. She could see the sadness on my face. When I told her everything, she didn't get angry. She didn't judge. She just listened. Then she looked me straight in the eye and said something I will never forget. "Anna," she said, "you deserve someone who chooses you from the beginning, not someone who keeps you in the shadows. Don't settle for half of someone's heart." I nodded, but her words hurt. Not because she was wrong, but because she was right. That night, I didn't cry. For the first time, I didn't feel weak. I felt something stronger, clarity. The next evening, I texted Michael. I told him I wanted to meet him at the park near the bakery. It was quiet there, with trees and wooden benches. A good place to say things that are hard to say. He arrived on time. I was already sitting, looking at the ducks in the pond. He sat beside me, silent at first. I took a deep breath. I told him I cared about him. I told him that what we had felt real, for me at least. But I also told him I couldn't live in confusion. I couldn't keep waiting, wondering, hoping for a future that didn't belong to me. He didn't try to stop me. He just listened. When I finished, he looked sad. He said he understood. He said he didn't want to hurt me anymore. We said goodbye, not with anger, but with something softer, maybe respect, maybe regret. As I walked home, the air felt cold, but my heart felt clearer than it had in weeks. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew one thing. I had made the right choice. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. I opened the window and took a deep breath. The sky was gray, and the streets were still wet from rain. But something inside me felt steady. Not happy, not yet, but steady. At the bakery, I worked like I always did. I focused on the dough, the customers, the sweet smell of cinnamon. Michael wasn't there that day. I didn't ask why. Some of the other girls whispered. Maybe they had noticed the change between us. Maybe they guessed. I didn't say anything. It was my story, and I didn't need to explain it to anyone. That afternoon, I walked home slowly. I passed a little bookstore and went inside. I hadn't done that in a long time. I bought a small sketchbook and a pencil. I remembered how I used to love drawing. I didn't know if I was still good at it, but I wanted to try. Back home, I made tea and sat by the window. I opened the sketchbook and let my hand move. I didn't think. I just drew. Maybe life wasn't perfect. Maybe love wasn't easy. But I was still here. I was still me. And that was a good place to start again. The weeks that followed were quiet, but they were different. I started to feel like a new person. I didn't wake up thinking about Michael anymore. I didn't look at my phone, waiting for his name to appear. I stopped hoping for messages that never came. Instead, I woke up thinking about my day, my small joys, and the quiet things I had forgotten I loved. I still worked at the bakery. Life didn't change all at once, but little by little, I did. I walked to work with music in my ears. I baked with more care. I even smiled at the regular customers who used to annoy me. My hands didn't shake anymore when I passed by the shelf where Michael kept his notes. I didn't feel nervous when someone mentioned his name. He was still around sometimes, but we didn't speak much. Just polite smiles, nothing more. That was enough. One rainy afternoon, I walked into a bookstore again. The sketchbook I bought weeks ago was already half full. Drawing helped me feel calm. It gave me something to look forward to in the evening. At the store, I found a book about painting with watercolors. I bought it, along with a small set of brushes. It felt good to give something to myself. I started painting on Sundays. Just soft colors, flowers, trees, cups of tea. Nothing special. But it made me feel light inside, like I was putting pieces of myself back together. One evening, I was painting by the window when my mother called. She asked how I was doing. I told her the truth. I was okay. She said she was proud of me. She didn't ask many questions, but I knew she could hear the change in my voice. She always could. A few days later, something unexpected happened. I received a message from Michael. It was short. He said he wanted to talk. He said there were things he needed to say. I didn't reply right away. I sat with the message for a full day. Then I decided to meet him. Not because I was still waiting, but because I wanted to hear it and then move on. We met at the same park as before. The trees were full of yellow leaves and the sky was a soft gray. I wore my old blue coat. I brought no expectations with me. Michael looked tired, not just on the outside, but deep in his eyes. He sat down beside me, and for a moment neither of us spoke. Then he said something I didn't expect. He said he had told his wife the truth, that he had feelings for someone else, that the marriage had been broken for a long time. He said he didn't blame me for walking away. He said he respected it. Then he said, "You were the only honest thing I had in a long time." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. He didn't ask me to come back. He didn't ask for another chance. He just said thank you for making him feel again, for helping him see what he had become. We said goodbye with no promises, no hopes, just words we both needed to say. After that day, I didn't hear from him again. I focused on myself. I kept painting. I started reading more. I joined a weekend art class at the local library. The room was quiet, and the people were kind. We painted together, and nobody asked too many questions. It felt like a fresh start. One morning, a man from the class smiled at me. His name was Daniel. He taught music at a school nearby. We talked a little after class. First about art, then about books, and then about life. He was gentle and calm, like a soft breeze. We didn't rush. We talked for many weeks before we met outside the class. One Saturday, we got coffee at a small cafe. He asked about my paintings. I asked about his students. We laughed about silly things and didn't talk about the past. I didn't tell him everything right away. I wasn't ready. But over time, I opened up, and he listened. Not with judgment, just with care. One evening, I sat by the window and thought about how far I had come. A few months ago, I cried every night. I felt like I was only enough when someone else looked at me with love. But now, I didn't need anyone to show me my worth. I knew it myself. Love had hurt me, yes, but it had also taught me. It showed me the difference between attention and care, between being needed and being valued. And now, as I looked at my reflection in the window, I didn't see someone broken. I saw someone strong, someone who walked away when it was hard, someone who chose peace over promises that came too late. Daniel and I are still just friends. Maybe something more will grow in time, or maybe it won't. But I'm okay either way, because for the first time, I feel whole on my own. If someone had told me back then that I would thank the pain one day, I wouldn't have believed them. But now I understand. The heartbreak didn't destroy me. It brought me back to myself. And that, to me, is the real love story.